Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Conversations in Ken's Café. Our guest today is actually on his way home, so he's driving right now. So we have Kip on from Dirt-Rite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of his videos from his YouTube channel, guys. He doesn't have a lot of videos yet, but these are foundational things that he's going to be showing us as he progresses and as he creates things which everybody can really benefit from. So let me bring up, this is one of his videos on his YouTube channel. Let's see if I can make me even smaller. There, that makes his a little bit bigger. We got his audio as well. So if you guys don't hear his audio, let me know and I can, make the changes I need to. But this is called Time Machine Ignition, is the name of this video on his channel.
Okay, are we rolling? Everybody tuned in? Dialed into the right frequency? Ready to receive? All right, transmission coming forth. The time machine. This is what we've been talking about, and here it is. Why time machine, right? Well, it relates to succession. And that in itself is a whole nother class, but what I'm going to say about succession is it's like a timeline, essentially. So nature repairs all soils or improves all soils in its own time. And that can happen rapidly if the circumstances are correct in the right environment, or it can happen slower. Like I say, I'm not going to go into it, but at the lower stages of succession, you have like this. I couldn't even put the tip of a penetrometer anywhere close to penetrating this surface. This is very highly compacted soil, low organic matter. There's several factors that go into a low succession, and so therefore it's bacterially dominated, which doesn't lend to healthy plant growth or upper successionary plants, meaning, so as time, these weedy species, if you will, that can thrive in that type of environment are paving the way for the next round of upper level succession. So you move into your fungal to bacteria ratio is going to be increasing as succession moves along. Like I said, we're not getting into that right now, but that's the time machine, that's the gist of it. So this moves succession along at a rapid pace. What nature may take hundreds or thousands of years to do, we can literally do in months, potentially weeks, if all conditions allow. Definitely a year or two or three, 5, just depends what you put into it. And that's where it goes back to the ingredients. I was listing multiple ingredients that we're going to be using, and I have here 4 gallons of water with a lot of the ingredients that we described, and then 4 plain gallons, which is 8 gallons of water, and 4 gallons of selected composts, craft compost, by the way, not just organic compost plus manure, $4 at Menards. Funny story, I'm not going to get too far into it, but I will tell you real quick. This brand, Organic Valley, had a product at Menards. This one wasn't bad. It was worth the money. I mean, if that's all that was available, that was very affordable. It had some life in it, not a lot, but they have a line that is a mushroom compost, and that stuff was really very valuable for what it cost. It was like $3.50 a bag, and it had quite a bit of fungi. It had several actors in the soil food web present. Not necessarily biocomplete, but very beneficial. Off on a tangent. Okay, time machine. That's why I coined it the time machine. Leighton Morrison introduced the concept to me, and we are going to journey. We're going to travel. How do I start? Let me show you what is inside first, okay? It's got an aerator, right? So what's hanging up here. Here's the button. Oh, you hear it. So what's inside? So this air line goes in. It's connected to 4 different sweeps. At the end of the sweeps is air. So that's keeping things from being, and then these sweeps will brush the material around the compost, and the spinning, it's not a spinning, it's more of a agitating, light, a soft collision, I think, as Leighton would put it. And even that, there's like a quantum thing that goes on that I don't really know about why, but he's verified through direct microscopy that it can produce superior results to, say, just a paddle and mixer, or even some of the T-Lab style bubblers. And I'm not dogging any of those pieces of equipment, because I'd like to have this is it's highly intensive on the labor, so there's going to be more direct microscopy work, Leighton, pardon me, but I'm going to have to really see how worth it really is, because it's a pain for it. I can make it easier. I'm going to work on getting a bigger one. You described a machine, the yogurt maker, that I really think would be beneficial. And like I say, so getting off on the side, we're going to try to get through this, people. We're going to put the water in. Got 4 gallons here, just plain water. We're going to hope it don't come out the bottom, because I'm a little ghetto rigged. Tipping and coming out. We're a little bit ghetto rigged down there. And if you follow me much, well, you haven't seen a lot, but you've seen enough to know that I'm slightly ghetto anyway. Hillbilly, I don't know what it is. I'm not really a hillbilly, but maybe I am. I've always lived, not always, but the properties that I've bought recently seem to be in town acreage on a hill at a dead end on a lookout, you know. I mean, I'm destined to be, I think that's where it's at, man, up on the hill, the highest point in town. It's where I want to be. I want to be able to, I don't know, there's energy here. I like it. I like to see it. I love the fact that there's deer, there's turkey. We're going off on a side tangent. I should have really backed out on the water just a little bit. I kind of spaced. I usually will put about 7 gallons in. And that allows me for wash down after we get everything in. I'll give it a little wash down anyway, but not that that's super critical. There's a bunch of stuff in here I'm going to wash down in there. Compost that we gathered earlier. Bubbler on. That's the machine. And we had to do a little bit of, this isn't just your average washing machine. It requires a specific style of machine that's able to be altered in a manner that it will allow it to start without the first cycle. So anyway, I don't know. We'll get into that deeper. I can run about an 18-minute cycle. The target that I've come to, that Leighton claims to be a good target, is about 30 minutes. So that's what I've been going for. So I set a timer. I don't have one, so I'll have to pay attention. I'm not going to run this the whole time, but I will let you take a peek at what's going on real quick, as long as it don't splash because it's throwing the material. And see, it doesn't spin all the way around, so it just agitates back and forth, so it doesn't. Extraction occurring. Extraction in progress. How about that? All right, we're going to take a pause.
And there we go. And Kip, I'll bring you up here. We can hear you. We're just going to remove that. But we have no camera.
No, not that.
So I'm not.
Did we have this occur last time? Do you remember how I did that?
Well, if you jump off and jump back on, and when you come back on, it'll ask you to verify your camera. If you can't see yourself, go into your settings
Sorry.
and check the different feeds and find out where your camera feed is. So you do that, and I'll keep yapping about what you were just doing and highlight a couple of things. So you jump off and jump back on. All right, guys. So Kip was talking about soft collision, and it's just like the water pump when you're doing anything that you're moving the biology. You don't want a water pump that's going to hurt the biology. So you get a diaphragm pump, which pumps using a diaphragm, not the spinning, because the spinning is what is going to damage your biology. So in that context, it's the same with what Kip is doing. He's using the gentle agitation to break the biology off of the material that he's put into the mixture that he's doing. So he's not damaging the biology. He's just basically shaking it off. It's like if you want to steal money from a kid, you turn him upside down and shake him by the legs and all the coins fall out. It's the same kind of idea. It's just that gentle shaking to remove the biology, to strip it off of the substrate and make it into a liquid form where it's in a dissolved form in the liquid, which is much easier for the biology to grab and grow into a plant. So Kip, that was an amazing video. And we have to, of course, thank Leighton Morrison for all the work he's done in developing this stuff over decades that he's been playing with this stuff. So I'm glad that you're able to show this machine, Kip. Yeah, you're an amazing guy, and you're a redneck, ghetto, whatever you want to call it, and so am I, because you take what you've got and you create what you need.
Yeah, I try to. Of course, there's a lot of things that I utilize that I don't have. I've been kind of on that mission this last couple of weeks of just going around. We've picked up some water tanks, and I've got a drying rack and a couple of items that I've just been kind of really going for to get up my rainwater set up and things like that. So yeah, it's been real exciting. I need to, of course, get the YouTube posted, updated. I stay so busy, it's difficult, but I know people want to know and need to know, so I'll try to share as best I can.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you have a full-time career. You do concrete work, so you're building, driveways, basements,
Right.
any concrete pads. So you're a busy guy, and I'm so impressed that you are willing to take that time and share what you're doing. I know Lily was saying earlier, she's totally jealous of your greenhouse that you're building as well. You're creating all this stuff from your heart to share with people because you want other people to really see what you're doing so they can learn how to do it as well. So I on the first show you did with Leighton Morrison, we talked a lot about, some of the stuff you're doing, etc. But maybe take us down the journey that brought you, Kip, to the point where you did want to show this stuff. What led you here?
Well, it's all about the biology. That's just like I said. It literally was the reason that I am here, because I've got to learn. Obviously there's so many questions I have as things come up, and I'm trying to build things, and it's like, we always. I feel like it's good to lean on the understanding of some of those that have already kind of blazed the trail. And when that information becomes accessible, then it just makes it a lot easier to not make maybe some of the hard mistakes, or spend time doing some things that you're not sure if it's going to yield the right results, So watching. Okay, so I met Leighton at the Soil Life Summit last year out in Pahrump, Nevada. I mentioned that. So I had never heard of Leighton or his methods previously. So I met him at the event, and he was teaching a class on the horizontal soil layering system. And then he had another class outside that kind of went deeper into the actual, we had the materials out and we're touching, talking, and just going over everything. And we were building compost with other teams and classes, and just a great time. And, that whole event just really, that was really a big catalyst for what I'm doing. But so the Leighton, meeting him, learning about this horizontal layering system, and then after leaving the event, devouring some of the information that he's put out on the web, it led me to this. It's all about the biology. So in order to get in there and ask the questions that I'm trying to ask and find out things, I had to create a YouTube channel. So I went ahead and created the YouTube channel, and then from there, being part of what the transition is going to be for me to be able to step away from, say, doing concrete construction full time and doing this on the side will be, gaining a little bit of notoriety. For one, you don't just open up a business per se and just be like, hey, I've got these products available. It's like, I'm doing the work. I'm doing the research. I'm taking courses and, learning everything I can. So at the same time, you want to kind of gain a little bit of a fan base, if you will. I mean, I buy products from people who I trust, and if people who are on this program, because Leighton has that kind of experience. You've got the experience that you've seen and been around a lot of this stuff. So, you guys naturally kind of attract people who know their stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just being involved in this circle and being in the know, I guess, if you will. It seems like, a lot of the latest information that I'm interested in, and that cutting edge biology, information comes through here. So I just figured I want to be a part of it, and the availability of what we're doing, the compost just really isn't here in this region. So just want to kind of start getting the word out now, so that when the time comes that we are able to share more of it and be able to help supply it and teach people to do it. And because it falls back to just my passion developed from just the fact that we're just being poisoned by our food system. And throughout my busyness of life, I've got on a little kick, buying organic food, this and that, and then you fall off. It's like it's hard to find, and then you start finding out that OMRI is a joke, and organic really means very little until you really dig into the farmer. You find out where your food's coming from, and then you find out, it's being shipped and boxed and sprayed, and it's ridiculous, So I've always had the passion to make a change in that manner, make these kind of foods available. And as time comes on, I realize it's not going to happen unless we just create the food itself, because and then to do that, we need the soil, we need the biology. So just a full circle right back to the biology. And there's just not enough people in the area that are aware and capable of assessing soil and things like that. So it just makes sense to be the guy, I guess, that, I'm kind of a loud mouth, and I don't really mind, just speaking up and saying what I feel. And especially when I know what I'm passionate about is good, where I know it's good. You know, we're not hurting people with what we do.
Well, and you've taken the courses. You went through the soil food web. You've taken the microscopy course, so you've learned how to actually look through the microscope and see what's really there, so that when you're at that point where it is good, it's good because you can see it and you can show other people. Now, before we go on, I wanted to bring up another one of your videos. It's only 23 seconds long. And this is you on your machine and your compost.
Yeah. Yep. And that was when we that pile down there. This is actually manure and all bedding in that pile.
Right.
Was there feedback?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. It was just doing it on my end there.
Okay.
So I'll be posting some new ones. We've assembled. So that was an ingredient of the compost is what you were seeing. And it was manure will heat up on you really quick if you don't pay attention to it. So we had to go ahead and aerate it. I think I got just one aeration before I went ahead and was prepared enough to go ahead and start assembling the ingredients. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yes, Thursday, we put together the ingredients. So we had our wood chips lined out and we were waiting on the water situation, right? So we've got our water lined out for the most part. We're still perfecting, to make it a little easier. Right now, we're just hook up 2 hoses and go to town watering. But there was just wood chips, and it's hard for us to tell how much nitrogen is in, like carbon to nitrogen ratio, because as I was saying, with the ramial portion of the plant is where most of the trees is where most of this material comes from. And there's no way for us to tell how much either dead material, if they went and cut all dead branches, it'd be more likely high carbon. But if they're cutting them lively green, and we can see when they dump them, sometimes they're really green and we're like, oh, that one's going to be hot, because it's really green. But it's right now, it's kind of just kind of a go with your heart thing on getting these ratios. So the same with that manure, it had a lot of straw bedding in it. So we're looking at we're thinking like 60 grass, 40 manure on that, 60% grass, 40% manure. And then we had some other grass clippings that we had collected from another site. So we got a little portion of grass in there as well. So all of those ingredients are combined, brought to moisture, and rested on Thursday afternoon. And it reached 140 degrees and stayed at 140 degrees. So we let it go 72 hours, and now it's just got turned a little bit ago today. So that's the first turning, and now we'll be watching for the next heat up. And we're hoping, we get good 3 to 5 good runs on the heat, hot enough, long enough.
Yeah.
Which, and if anybody has questions about that or whatever, we can go into those things.
Well, and I think you're talking about the regulations where when you're selling the product, it has to have went through I believe it's 3 heat cycles to a certain temperature for X amount of hours to make sure that the bad biology, your salmonella, etc., has been cooked out of it. I believe that's what you're talking about, right?
And a lot of your seeds and things like that, pathogenic, anything that came in pathogenic with it, things like that will all be taken care of through that proper, if you will, proper heating cycle. And not that it doesn't, I know there's other composting methods, but we know that if it's hot enough, long enough, then the job is done. And 3 turns allows for, you have a hot center, you have kind of a bottom region, and then, you have your outer shell. So there's 3 sections of a typical pile, and you want to know that all 3 sections have been through the cycles. That's why we'd like to see a minimum of 3. And now, regulation is, they say 5, but we're not really under regulation. We're not asking permission.
Okay. Now, so how often do you think you're going to be running that machine through the pile before you start adding other components? Because right now, you're saying you're the manure and some green waste, the trees, etc. How many times, or are you going to start adding stuff, in a sooner or in a later profile?
We will add really anything else other than if we get a hold of a good source of rock dust. I won't mind adding that at any gate, or biochar. Those are just neutral, but we won't add any foreign organic material from this point forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically you're mixing your components together, and then you're just letting it sit, go through the cycle, and you're adding at the beginning, say, rock dust and biochar,
which I didn't have. Yeah, we didn't have enough, so there's none in it.
Okay. Well, and that's okay, because that can always be added in later.
Yeah.
It hasn't, as long as the biology is there, that's what we really want to focus on, because without that, there's no cell division, there's no cells being built without the workforce, which is your biology.
Right. Yeah, there's ways to make it better, which those will increase usefulness of the and value of the compost. But at this point where we're starting, there's this 200 yards of bulk material that we're going to find out at the end, basically the value, and like say, all of those other things that we could do to it are going to be value added, additions to the pile, which they're, again, if they're non-organic, like the rock dust, biochars, things like that, I would have loved to have had them in already, of course. But, we've got a couple of totes of biochar coming. We were hoping to make some by then, but just, how time. Just can't do it. We're going to keep going like they're again, just doing what we can with what we have,
Well, and sometimes it makes a lot more sense to have somebody else do that part of it, and bring it in, than you taking the hours and the days and the weeks, the months to actually create that side of it to mix in. The main focus is always going to be on making sure that you have the biology in your compost, because there's so many people out there that are making compost and say, oh, this is fantastic, everybody likes it, but you put it under the microscope and it's dead. There's nothing there but some organic material. There's no life there, and it's the life that you really want. So before you sell it, you're obviously going to be putting it under the microscope to make sure the life is there. And then you're going to be bagging it, selling it. Are you doing it in bulk? Because I know you're not going to be using plastic bags.
Well,
how are you selling it?
We may have to. Catalyst Bioamendments has a really nice bag that they have. It's a plastic bag. We live in a plastic world. I've kind of come to the terms. I'm going to find another way. It's going to happen. But if that's what it takes to get it out, we're going to get it out. But yeah, it'll go in all manners, from, truckload to big bags, to small bags, to sample bags. We'll be going to events and things. I'll set up microscope, and I'd have a little bag, just a little one time, like say a little 5-gallon bucket brew kit, and then have the card there with instructions and whatnot, and either give them out or sell them cheap or whatever, or, however it works out, depending on where we're at that point in time. But yeah, so essentially it'll be marketed and in different various sizes, quantities, and forms, and we'll be applying it to
fields and gardens for people as well. And there again, that'll all come in different shapes and sizes depending on where it develops from here.
So when you're saying you're going to show them how to make an extract or a tea, so they can take a small volume of compost to cover a large garden or large field, you're going to be teaching them that and giving them the directions to do that.
Yeah, we'll have various, like just like little, even a 5-gallon bucket, little whatever you have, we'll have various methods available, but a paddle mixer in a 5-gallon bucket for a couple minutes does great. Like I say, I haven't had the time to run the actual test to side by side from, like, say, a paddle mixer extractor to a air stone, in a bucket to the time machine, So right now I'm leaning on Leighton's knowledge and experience and in using the time machine and proclaiming it as the superior method. But I can't personally attest to it, because I haven't had enough time and experience and done enough testing, because it does take time to get into the microscope and really assess what you're doing. I pull it up, I look in, I say, oh yeah, that's good, there's a bunch, but to put real numbers to it, I'm still a little bit slow on the computer stuff. So it's something I've always liked to play. It really is.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing is, as long as you can show people the life that's there, especially, you can have the microscope there, but if you have a little monitor where you can, show the people, this is, good stuff, this is bad stuff,
it's real easy to see, when there's life there or not, you can see it especially if I'm there to kind of guide and see what you're looking at. But when there's stuff moving and all that, it's not hard to. We'll pull some up at some point on whenever we'll do some.
Yeah, well, and I think you're going to have the compost there. You're going to have directions for people, but maybe have some of the liquid there that you're making as well, so people can buy the ready-made solution where, say 1 part of your liquid to 100 parts water, whatever concentration you figure out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they're lazy. They're like me. They're lazy. They just want to get the bottle. Okay, yeah, I'm going to pour it into my garden hose that they can use to spray because it draws out the liquid. You could even, suggest that kind of stuff to people as well. It's the more that we can give to people for ideas, and especially when you're selling stuff where they can just grab it and go. But a lot of people are a lot happier, especially your older people, like, your seniors and that are growing, more flowers and stuff. That would make their lives a lot simpler. I know it would make my life simpler. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely will make extract available as well, with the understanding that, it's a short lifespan. That's until I figure out, how long these things are staying.
Well, and the stability of something that's alive in a liquid form like that, a lot of people don't realize that as the biology is consuming everything else that's there, it's creating gases, and those gases have to have a place to go. That's where stabilizing these types of solutions is so difficult for, sale to a different state, where, if it's the gardener down the road, it's really easy for them to grab a bottle where you can, have a large pail and a spigot at the bottom where you pour the bottle in. Okay, when you get home, take this cap off so we can breathe.
Yeah, stick an air tube in there if you've got one. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand these things, and that's where, you're going out. I don't know if you're going to farmers markets, etc., and bringing these. You're going to be bringing these products there, but explaining to people that the life, that's what we want, is that life, and you can't, if you're killing that life, you're not doing yourself any favors. You want to use it, sooner than later. And I love what you're doing, and that you're going to go out to your local community. And I wish more people will follow your example. That's why I'm so impressed, Kip, with what you're doing with your Dirt-Rite channel, where you're going to be showing people how to create this. Because, guys, Kip is at the foundation stage. He's building the infrastructure. And like Kip and I were talking before, the show, it's great to see, people that are successful, and they have these beautiful gardens, but where did they start? How did they get there? And that's where Kip is going to be showing you guys, as he's growing this, as he's creating the greenhouses, and everything, the wallopini you've got there, etc. He's going to show you guys. So it's very important to follow someone like Kip that's taking things from the ground level and working forward from there, to have you guys get ideas and what you can do, and you can do locally. Now, are you going to have a worm farm, Kip?
I do have a small worm farm. Yeah, it will expand.
Okay.
It's ever expanding. Yeah. And it has some setbacks every now and then too, when I get a little bit of little sidetracked and maybe let them get a little dry. So there's that thing again too, when I can finally get to the point where I can break free from the full-time job, and this becomes full-time, it'll get a little bit easier to keep up with things.
Well, and it, like anything else, it's scheduling, and if you miss out on watering something, whether it's a plant or the worms, which is a life form, or the biology, which is a life form, that's where you can have problems. That's where hydrophobic soil, or that soil you stomped on at the beginning of the time machine video, that's so compacted, it's not letting water soak in. And that's where you're wanting to build that up. And that's where, using the liquids you're creating on there. And I'm just so, looking forward to watching the progression of your soils as you build this, Kip, because people are going to see amazing results. Like you said, a week, a month, a year, a lot of it depends on how much effort you're going to put in, how much material you're going to use. Like, I don't know, we've got Adam who's growing in the desert, who actually drilled the holes with the post hole auger, filled those up to help get things in. And Andy Lopez talks about it all the time, putting in those chambers where he's filling it up with, good stuff and good life and the biology. It's just such an easy way to get deeper into your soil structure, to start the process. So what are the things can we look forward to, Kip? What's coming up on the channel?
Oh, well, there'll be more on the windrows, of course. We'll put that information out. And, what would people like to see? That's a good question to put out there too. I'm not real sure exactly. I just keep updating with whatever's going on. We're installing I just picked up a 2,000 gallon water tank, and that's going to be for collecting rainwater. So then my cousin and I we took some railroad ties and dug up some of the topsoil and put down some rock, compacted it, and kind of building a railroad tie base for the tower to set on. So that's going to be coming up. I'll post a little bit about that. And then there's a little bit of work to be done yet before we can install the guttering system that will actually fill the tank. And that tank is going to be, Oh, probably 10 feet higher than most of my garden beds that are down here by the house. So, and it's 13 feet tall, the tank. So when it's full, there's going to be over 20 feet in 2,000 gallons, of head pressure that'll allow for drip lines. I've got some irrigation buried in here that will feed some drip lines to a lot of these beds. And that's going to free up a little more time as well when we can get the watering situation under control, just closing loops, is, and starting to collect, more of the actual groundwater, not just some of the rainwater, trying to trap some of that landscaping and, building furrows and things like that. Yesterday I was battling a gopher or a groundhog or one of them had dug a hole in one of the paths that's on the slopes in the back where water runs. And so he dug a hole down into the retaining wall right behind my barn, and there was mud flowing in through the wall across the floor. So there's another 20-hour setback right there repairing all of that. But I was out there in the pouring down rain yesterday, stomping the ground and with my feet, like redirecting, channeling the water, pushing up furrows and things. So, I got a little bit of video of that too. So we'll get shared. We'll get some of that shared as well.
Well, and Penny says, eat more gopher.
Eat more gopher. Yeah, no kidding. Oh man, that reminds me. I don't even like that. I ran over one accidentally. Not that one probably, because that hole came after, I'm pretty sure. But I was cruising down through there on the side by side, and next thing I know, I felt this bump and looked back, and he was rolled. Felt horrible, but probably could have been some good eating.
Gopher stew, right? Better than rabbit stew, isn't it? The thing is, I know that we don't like to kill things, destroy things, whether it's a mouse, an ant. But at the same time, we have to realize that every step we take, on our lawn, say, we're killing a whole bunch of biology as we're crushing that plant. We're killing that plant. So the idea that I have personally is I try not to, but I don't sweat it when I do, right? Because Mother Nature, it's predator prey, baby, and like everything's after everything else because something is eating, whatever, and then there's something eating that, and there's something eating that, whether it's the biology or us. If we throw us into the wild up north, the wolves, the coyotes, the bears, the mountain lions, we're just food, okay? So
we got great survival skills.
So I don't try to. It would be like, okay, I'm driving down the highway and I hit a whole bunch of bugs splattering against my windshield. Should I feel that in my heart going, oh my God, I killed that, that bug? No, I'm sorry. I'm a very tender-hearted individual and I don't try to, but I'm not going to swerve for, a coyote running across the road and swerve myself head on into a semi truck. There's just points you can go to,
Yeah.
Oh, Kip, there's so much that you're doing. I know you have the equipment, that you're able to do a lot of the stuff on a larger scale. But for somebody that doesn't have the equipment, what would you suggest that they look at to start with gaining biology for their garden and their property?
Oh boy, that's a big, it depends. I think I would say start where you're at, assess your situation and decide how much time and effort you have, how much strength you have, what tools you have.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there are quite a few methods. I really like for a person that doesn't have a lot of means, I guess, access to equipment and loads of chips and big piles of leaves and grass and things like that. You just kind of start where you're at and gather up some branches and start doing the pile like Leighton describes a lot of times. His simple kind of it's almost a hugel culture type scenario where, just get some things stacked together, try to honor the carbon to nitrogen ratio the best you can, 60% browns to 30-some% greens is usually a good ratio, depending on there again, don't try to get too, it's hard to, don't get too hung up on them ratios because I've done a lot of research and I don't know how to really nail them down myself, and I'm sure I'll learn better, but I kind of go with my heart. But there are there's good information out there on certain items that do, but just it's really about starting where you're at. There are little compost tumblers that they're not the greatest, they're small. I really feel like you need a volume of around a cubic yard to make a good compost pile.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be definitely a hot compost pile, you'd really need some bulk. But as far as timing wise, if you're interested in getting the stuff, at least within a year or so, you're going to want a little bit of a size of a pile.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I say, there's just so many different methods out there that there's the Bokashis and the EMs and ferments and.
Well, one of the ones that you have is the worm castings, and I think that's one of the easiest things for people to start with, is because you can go to a Walmart and buy a tote for $5 and have some newspaper, throw it in, buy a pound of worms for $5-10 or however much it is in your area. You can start with the worm castings, because the worm castings are actually huge for the biology. It's a higher life form.
Yes,
right?
Quality is going to be there.
It's going to eat the biology. It doesn't eat an apple. Worm doesn't eat an apple, guys. It eats the biology that exists inside of the apple, and it poops biology back out, a better biology than what went in, because it's adding in. But I think that's one of the easiest ways that I've ever found was, just to start trying to do worms, whether, you're just doing it in your backyard and you create, an area where, it's just blocked off and you're putting in, the lettuce and stuff from your house under the soil to gather those worms and that biology. But I think that's one of the easiest methods to start, and you're composting and worm farming at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I believe it was Dr. Lane on one of the videos mentioned, but seems real simple, but it makes sense. So in your pile, if you are just going to do like an area in your yard, like you said, just pick an area and that's your worm bin, your compost pile. Well, if you say you bring out some kitchen scraps and you kind of just move some stuff and you tuck them under the ground, you don't want to draw rodents and things like that. So you want to tuck it under the soil. And then, maybe if you can, just put a little marker there, a flag or something, so that you don't disturb that area for a little while, because, you are going to have that process where, let's say you got a big handful of some rotting food. And if you just gently just kind of stuff it in there, there's going to be a short period where it is going to be anaerobic. There are going to be, some pathogens potentially, like say in a week or two, so that you really just don't even want to fool with that area for, at least maybe some kind of months until you learn kind of how quick it's taken to break things down and whatnot. But that's one good way to kind of monitor that situation, where if you have a static pile and you just want things to, it's going to eventually be good, stuff it in there. And then, you kind of start at one end and work your way around. And by the time you get to the other side, maybe that stuff's ready, or kind of find a system like that. That's a real simple way.
Well, and I think, that's one of the keys is letting it sit. But if you're going to do this, especially outside in ground, and you're taking, vegetables that are going to be basically rotting, because that's the biology breaking everything down back into its components, moving that area, like Kip is saying, is very important, and covering it so that there's no external smell will actually help you keep the pests away, like, rats, gophers, etc. You don't want to have that just exposed out, just dumped on the ground. Cover it up, put 3 or 5 or 6 inches of dirt on top of it, so that the predators don't come to disturb the pile, because you don't want to have rats in your yard running around eating your vegetables that you're growing later.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have areas in your garden, if you're running out of space in that spot or whatever, and that you're not going to be fooling around in that spot, just you can bury things right in the yard or whatever, that's fine too. Just there again, just try to remember, so that you're not digging them up 2 weeks later and going, "Oh, what is that?"
Was that a potato that I planted, or was that a potato I threw away?
Might smell a little funny there for a little while, because
the
biology is happening and breakdown is occurring, and it goes through those phases, and it will eventually get to the right level, but there is a stage where it's not the right level.
Well, and the chat, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not really watching the questions very much, but
I don't see them. What am I doing wrong here?
You would have to show your comments, so it should be on the right-hand side of your screen. Can you see where it says comments, private chat?
No, I need to exit full screen, maybe. Okay, chat with everyone in the studio, private chat, comments. There we go. Okay, now I'm with you. I'll get this stuff figured out, guys.
Oh yeah, hey, it takes time. Believe me, it took me a while to get things figured out. So, Farmer Cheryl, are there different kinds of bokashi composting? Most of us use a bucket, food scraps, and EM1. What other ways can bokashi be done that uses plant waste outdoors? And basically, Cheryl, it would be digging a hole, throwing your stuff in, throwing your bokashi grains on top, layering it, having enough volume where you can do everything in one shot. But generally speaking, your bucket method is the way you want to go, and then take that full bucket and bury it in the garden, and definitely put 6 to 8 inches of topsoil in with the bokashi, because the biology has already broken it down and started to digest it. You can come back in a shorter span of time and dig that back up, and there's not going to be anything left. It's going to be fully broken down because it's already been pre-digested. That's what bokashi is all about, is basically fermentation, which is pre-digestion of the materials. That's why, if we're, eating pickles or cabbage or sauerkraut, it's so much better because it's already been pre-digested by the biology.
That's
Do
right.
you do a lot of that stuff, Kip? Like canning and stuff like that?
We do some canning. We did. We must have done maybe a couple hundred jars last year. What did we do, babe? Do you remember? We don't keep real close track, but over 100, well over 100 tomatoes. Well, yeah, how many? 80 green beans.
Cool.
And these mostly pints on those. Well over 100 different tomatoes, and some of the tomatoes we just kind of got to where we did some stewed tomatoes, we did some salsas, we did some other tomato stuff, but then we just kind of do a lot of them whole tomatoes, and then just kind of, now they're versatile to use for whatever you want to use them for later. So, and we did really good because, you know, we don't have a whole lot left right now in the season. You know, we've got flowers and blooms on our tomato plants now, so it shouldn't be long. We're hoping we'll have a good harvest this year. We're hoping. Don't count for the hat.
A few hundred years ago, if you didn't can and you didn't preserve, you didn't eat and you died. So we're just getting back to that now.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, Ken, I just wish I put my foot down and say, you know, if we didn't grow it, we're not going to eat it, or if we don't know who did, because it's just really that serious, and we don't take it nearly serious enough. I just get the feeling that it's only getting worse. You know, they just keep putting more and more crap in our food that's just not good for us.
Well, as soon as they brought out preservatives in the 60s, you know, or before then, that's when we started declining. And then when they brought out the fertilizers, and we started with herbicides and pesticides, we started killing the biology in our soils, and it's just been getting worse and worse and worse since then. Now we're realizing, at least on our channel, and a lot of people that watch our channel are realizing that if we don't come back to, you know, understanding that, you know, our lives are over without biology, because we can't build, you know, a heart cell without the biology actually constructing it. You know, we have to come back to these understandings. And that's where, you know, Kip, you're going to be going out, you're going to be going to farmers markets, etc. And I know damn well you're going to end up speaking on stage at events as you move forward and grow and people find out about Kip. You know, I'm looking forward to, you know, you're showing on your channel, you know, interviews like what we're doing today, but you on stage, like Leighton was on stage, like Dr. Elaine Ingham has been on stage, talking about your experiences and everything that has progressed you to bring you to where you are, to help people, because that's what it's all about. I'm not making money off this show, guys. I'm here, you know, taking my time and my energy to give to you guys a foundational knowledge, and that's what Kip is doing. And he's going to be able to take you on the journey that I can't do because I'm not physically able to do it anymore. But Kip's going to show you how to build this stuff yourself, like the washing machine. You know, how many times are these things thrown away that could be repurposed? And, you know, Kip, you've got garden beds. I've seen them on your channel, built from logs. It's just all these little things that you can do to help everybody. You know, you're not just helping yourself, Kip, you're helping, you know, your neighbors' kids, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, and society as a whole by doing what you're doing. And I really appreciate you're doing this and starting your YouTube channel. And guys, Dirt-Rite on YouTube, check it out. You're going to want to follow Kip and his journey, showing us what he's doing, helping you guys do things better and learn and grow and be healthy. Because it doesn't matter if you're a multi-billionaire like Elon Musk. If you don't have health, that wealth isn't going to freaking do you much good.
Yeah. And I want to point out too, you know, we use terminology like Kip and he and it, and it, I can't do this by myself. You know, I've got a lot of people that support me and help me, and, you know, especially my fiance, Jesse, you know, just so much, like I said, especially in, like, she's a wizard in the kitchen. Like, she makes great food. I look forward to her food all the time. And, the canning and stuff like that, you know, I help as much as possible and quite a bit, but I don't help as much as I'd like to. But, you know, she's probably not going to go out there and dig big holes and fling dirt and cut down trees and mulch trees and move piles and do those things, so I guess that's where we try to find our balance, but I dedicate so much time to the actual work side of things that it just, like I said, it just makes it tough. It's tough.
Yes. Well, and we appreciate Jessie, in all that she puts in. Just like I appreciate my wife, Lily, and all the things that she does. Without her, there is no me, doing what I'm doing. So
yeah, I would be doing a lot less of what I am able to do, if it wasn't for her. She helps out a lot. So
well, and she's keeping you on track, and we really appreciate her and anybody else that is out there helping you.
Yes,
do what you're doing. Like your cousin coming over.
Yeah, Hank Derbs. That's Hank Derbs.
Yeah.
He's on here. Yeah, that's old Zahner. That's my cousin. And Seth is partner in what we're doing too. So sure you'll be hearing from him sometime in the future or seeing more of him. But we keep on track and keep things rolling. I'm probably considering maybe just lock a senior schedule. We might just lock in this Sunday thing, and we'll just have Crobe Church. We'll do Crobe Church on Sunday evenings. Hashtag Crobe Church.
Well, there you go. And it's all about that community. Bring the community together.
Yeah. And you were talking about the money thing. I already know. I don't look around and see too many people who are living high on the hog by applying microbes to soil. So it's kind of one of those things that, like, I realize it's a tough battle, but it's worth it. And I'm not doing it for the money, but it requires money. I have to be able to supplement. So therefore, the products, and we'll be doing fundraising things and teaching and raffles and any kind of creative way that I and we can come up with to get the funding going to where we can maybe we can get grants. I'm working on setting up the actual business now. And once that all gets in place, it'll make things a little bit easier on the business side. And so like I say, I'll try to be, without just spilling my personal beans out, I'll try to be as sharing as I can with the processes as we move along. And maybe it will encourage someone or teach someone or allow someone to just get the inspiration. Like, I'm nearly 50 years old and I'm just getting started. I've always said when I grow up, I want to be a farmer, and I guess I'm growing up finally. So I'm not a full farmer yet, but I'm farming. Like we harvested a big old head of cauliflower the other day. We've got a cabbage ready to harvest. There's a lot more stuff coming in. The strawberries are overflowing out there. We need to get out there and get them picked. So things are coming, in stages, and I'd love it all to just be done.
It never happens that way. It's always
what is that?
First step of climbing Everest is that first step, and then the next step, and the next step.
That's always the next. It always feels like the first step because it goes on and on and on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and the more we learn and grow and understand, the more availability of well, if I tweak it over here and I tweak it over there, and maybe I should try this, and there's so much to do and learn and grow from. So I wanted to just talk to Cheryl. I haven't had Robert on. If he's saying vermicompost isn't very effective, maybe he should learn how to use a microscope. Okay, because when you take compost and you take vermicompost and you look under the microscope at the difference, it's the life inside that makes all of the difference. It's the life inside your own gut, your gut microbiome, that is the most important thing in your body. Just like the life in the soil is the most important thing for our plants. So if he's saying that it's not that good, maybe he needs to take his education to a different level, or maybe just if he's using a microscope, maybe the products that he's looking at are just junk products.
That's what I was going to say. I've bought some commercial worm castings that definitely were not very good. At least 3 different bags from big box stores, and I was not real impressed. And that's the same story all the way across the board with just about anything we can get. I did mention the cheap bag of mushroom compost that I got from Menards that time, and that stuff was consistently showing good biology. And I was really pleased, and I used quite a bit. They don't even carry it anymore. And I haven't looked into the manufacturer to see if, maybe that'd be available by the truckload to bring to my lot, and I could market that stuff because it was marketable. It was affordable.
Well, and the thing is, it's a matter of doing research in your local area. Maybe there's a local mushroom farmer in your area it's a waste product. It's like brewer's grain out of the back of the brewery that's so good for feeding the biology, but it's a waste product. It's gonna be thrown into the dump. So
that's right.
Think outside the box, guys. Like, look at what's around you. There's so much life around you, unless you're in the concrete jungle and all you've got is a little herb garden, but even then there's parks and stuff that you can go to, go hug a tree. The biology is on the tree. It's actually going to go through your little fingers here and get a little bit into your body. It's like rolling around on the chemicals that were sprayed on the grass. You don't want to be doing that, but if it's natural grass, go roll around in it, become one with nature, get the biology back into you. But Kip, we're over an hour, brother. I know you just got home, so I want to be respectful for your time and your partner's time, the wonderful lady that keeps you in line. We want to make sure we keep her happy, so I don't see any, cast iron frying pans coming up behind you.
Yeah, none of that. That'd be great. I did see a question that came up a couple of times, and I didn't know if you wanted to address it about just looking at other ways to be able to kind of tell without a microscope. It's not always guaranteed, because I have had some that I pick up and smell, and it feels right. It smells usually. Your nose knows, like you smell that earthy, you get a good looking texture in a soil. Typically it's going to be, you're going to know that it's fair. It may not be top notch microbiology. And one other thing I did want to touch on too, real quick too, 60 nematodes in one slide this morning when I looked at my vermicompost that I had pulled out. So I was really happy with that. Got some really nice, no fungal feeders. They were mostly, as far as I could tell, some of them moved too much, and I don't try to slow them down. You could put a lighter under them and stop them, but it makes a mess of your slide, and I don't like to do it. So I just go on. But yeah, I wanted to, I don't know if you have any other ways, Ken, of really knowing and testing there that you'd heard.
Not really, other than your nose. But there's lots of compost out there that's went too long, and it's been left out in the rain. Everything's been bled out of it, but yet you smell it and it smells good. It smells like forest soil. There's nothing left in it.
Yeah,
it's really hard unless you have the microscope, because it's like. Let's a good analogy would be something like, the plane looks fine from the outside, but there's no seats inside. You don't want to be on there, right? So it's unless you have the equipment to actually look, you're taking a chance. So it's the same. Get to know your farmer. How are they growing their crops? How are they growing their animals? Is that grass-fed beef fed all summer on grass, then taken to a feedlot to finish it off and sold as grass-fed beef, when it's not truly grass-fed beef.
And was the grass covered in toxic chemicals? You know,
exactly.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So.
Guys,
Yep.
we're gonna have you on a regular basis. We've already talked about that. So, guys, keep up with Kip's channel. You know, subscribe to his channel, leave comments, etc., to help Kip, you know, do better. And don't forget to mention that wonderful lady that's behind him, keeping him in line. You know, because I'm sure she's out there doing a lot of work that he's not doing, you know, and it's always the people standing behind us can really help out a lot. So
it does help a lot. You can't stress that enough. Like I'd say to people, you know, it's inspiration from our side to see the interaction on our channels, you know, people like even like our comments here, you know, everybody's so friendly and nice, and it's inspiring, and it keeps the burnout down a little bit, you know, because it can be taxing doing a lot of what we do. So
yes,
I appreciate it very much.
Okay, guys, we're not sure if there's going to be a Soil Matters tomorrow. Leighton's sent me a text today. He's really sick again, so we're kind of, it's up in the air for a show for that tomorrow. I do have someone coming on Tuesday. I'm not sure how to pronounce their first name, but they're a specialist in water and water treatment, etc. So you're going to want to check that out on Tuesday. Of course, Wednesday, Mr. Andy Lopez and myself will be back on. Hopefully the ladies for Chiropractic is Sexy are going to be on Thursday. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to do a lot of stuff on my property and etc. So my shows are kind of hit and miss right now, but we're going to try to do, you know, keep going. But guys, thank you so much for being here. Kip, thank you. And guys, Kip, let's give you the last word.
Peace and love.
Okay. Peace.
How about that?